My name is Beth Nord. I'm a biologist with the Bureau of Ocean and Energy Management, and we're here today for the third in a series of public meetings on the proposed Central Planning Area 247 lease sale draft environmental supplemental impact statement. Here's some of the items that we're going to review. Today I'm going to go through some background information about BOEM and some other topics, and then we will get to the public input portion of the meeting. But also we will be providing some information about how, in addition, if you do not want to speak today, you can provide public comments. The Bureau of Ocean and Energy Management is a bureau of the Department of Interior, and our mission is to manage the development of outer continental shelf lands for both energy and mineral resources, so oil and gas, sand, and we also deal with offshore renewable energy activities. Our congressional mandate is, you can see it up on the screen. It comes from our enabling legislation, which is the Outer Continental Lands Act of 1954. To put it simply, the act directs the Secretary of the Interior to provide timely access to outer continental shelf resources in a safe and environmentally sound manner. This is just going to give you a little information about the one lease sale that we are talking about today. So we're talking about the final lease sale from the 2012 to 2017 5-year program, or the current program. And as you can see on the slide, that program included sales in Alaska and 12 sales in the Gulf of Mexico. Today we're going to talk about the final proposed sale in the Gulf of Mexico, which is one of the Central Planning Area sales. You can see in yellow, it shows the areas where the Alaska sales, proposed sales were going to be offered, and then down here shows the Gulf of Mexico areas. And the Central Planning Area is the one right in the middle. The Central Planning Area boundaries are also shown here, and we'll be talking a little bit about these white areas that appear on the slide. They're some of our areas that are deleted from being able to be leased due to other legislation. Let's talk a little bit about the activities that are ongoing in the Outer Continental Shelf lands. The OCS lands actually provide a lot of the energy resources that the United States produces. You can see in 2014, 16% of all oil produced in the U.S. was from the outer continental shelf lands, and in 2013, 6% of natural gas was produced in outer continental shelf lands. Now, as the slide says, the majority of this production came from the Gulf of Mexico, not 100%, but the majority of it. And when you look at activities that are going on in the Gulf of Mexico on a day-to-day basis, you can see that we have approximately 4,300 leases that are currently active in the Gulf of Mexico. And that translates to approximately 22 million acres that are currently leased in the Gulf of Mexico. We are seeking your input about the draft supplemental environmental impact statement that we prepared to evaluate the impacts of the proposed lease sale CPA 247. The environmental impact statement was prepared to meet the requirements of the National Environmental Policy Act, or NEPA. And NEPA is a federal law which is our basic national charter for protection of the environment. And NEPA requirements, if you boil it down into two basic things, it requires that a federal agency evaluate federal actions that they are proposing to do, and they assess the impacts of those actions, and they disclose those impacts to the public and to decision makers. So the environmental impact statement document is the way that we describe the impact assessment that we've conducted, and by releasing it to the public, we disclose that information to the public, to other federal and state resource agencies, as well as make that information available to our decision makers. It also drives us to coordinate and cooperate with other federal agencies related to the other environmental laws and regulations that we also must comply with in doing our work. Environmental impact statement has a series of steps. Those steps follow the regulations that were developed by the Council of Environmental Quality, which is part of the executive branch of government. Again, we talk about discussion of significant environmental impacts and informing decision makers and the public. So those are the two main keys that we are achieving when we develop our environmental impact statement. The steps that are involved are here on the right. You can see in green. We notify the public of our intent to prepare the EIS. For this document, we did that back in August of 2015. We hold scoping meetings and have a scoping public comment period. That occurred between August 17th and approximately September 16th. We had a 30-day period for that. We also held public scoping meetings on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of September of 2015. And since that time period, we've been working on our draft EIS, which we have now released to the public and started our comment period. There was a notice of availability that was released on February 26th, and our public comment period extends from February 26th to April 11th. So again, if you choose not to provide comments today, you have until April 11th, 2016 to provide input on this environmental impact statement. Some other things that the CEQ regulations or guidelines require is that our documents aren't encyclopedic. Although they do appear very large when you see them printed out, they are supposed to be focusing on those resources that could be impacted by the activities that are associated with our proposed action. And if we do not know about, we don't have information to draw conclusions because that information is unavailable, we also have to disclose that in our document, and that relates to incomplete or unavailable information. Here are some of the other environmental laws and regulations in the blue circle that surround NEPA that we also have to comply with for our work, and we either do that directly through consultation and coordination with state, federal agencies, or the tribes, or if an individual company is performing work, they may have to directly interact with some of these groups. The purpose of our meeting today is to get comments from the public and other interested parties, federal and state resource agencies, industry. So that is what we will do today. The proposed action that we are talking about today is that one remaining lease sale, and it's a mouthful, Central Planning Area Proposed Lease Sale 247. Again, it's the final lease sale that's associated with the 2012-2017 5-year program in the Gulf of Mexico. The EIS discloses the potential impacts associated with the lease sale and all those activities that relate to construction activities that would flow from that lease sale, and we're going to look at some of those in a later slide. And because we're talking about all related activities, we actually consider a very long time period of analysis, 40 years, because that would be the time period that we would expect it would take to go from having the lease sale to drilling, to producing, and then to finally shutting down operations associated with that particular lease sale. This slide gives us an idea about the current activity in the Gulf of Mexico, and the green dots are leases that are already in place. So those areas that are green dots right now would not be available for the lease sale because there's also already an existing lease, unless those leases expired prior to holding the lease sale, which is next March timeframe, if everything moves forward. So what area are we considering for this lease sale? We're considering the area in blue. Earlier I said there were 2 areas in white, now they're in dark blue, that are deleted. These are areas that are eliminated from leasing because of other legislation, and we'll see what that is later on. So when we are talking about holding a lease sale, it would be for the blue area minus the green dots minus the dark blue area. So let's make it complicated. So to give you an idea about what's available for leasing right now. And the number of unleased blocks, if you can see that at the bottom of the slide, is about 9,000. To conduct our analysis, we actually do projections of activities that we expect would happen if there is a lease sale, and we also forecast the amount of production that could occur if there was a lease sale. So these numbers just give you an idea about projections of oil and gas resources that might be produced if there were a lease sale. In our EIS, we discuss different alternatives that the government considers before selecting, before making a decision. And these different alternatives we evaluate individually in the EIS. So the first alternative, again, is offering for lease all those unleased blocks within the central planning area. So the light blue area minus the green boxes, and then those 2 areas I showed you that I said were eliminated because of other legislation are the Gulf of Mexico Energy Security Act of 2006 areas that are eliminated, and then areas that are known as the Eastern Gap that are beyond the exclusive economic zone. So there's other restrictions related to legislation that just eliminate those areas from leasing. Our second alternative is basically the same as alternative A, but there are additional restrictions for topographic features or biologically significant areas that are known on the Gulf floor in areas that are currently unleased. So think coral reef. If there's a coral reef on the bottom that we know where it is and it's an unleased block, this alternative B would not make that block available for leasing. And then the final alternative that the EIS considers is just no action or canceling the lease sale, not holding the lease sale. What are the kind of activities that occur or impacts that could occur because of the lease sale? So we've got a variety of things that deal with exploration, development, and production of oil and gas resources. And some of those are obvious, like drilling. Other things are obvious, like air emissions, discharge of wastes, trash and debris falling off vessels, falling off structures. And then other things, since we talk about the 40-year time period, are the decommissioning or getting rid of stuff at the end of the process. So these are just some of the areas of impacts that we consider when we perform our impact assessment. What are we assessing? We're assessing impacts to a variety of environmental resources. This slide shows some of the different types of environmental resources we evaluate. They're not just biological resources, there's also things like environmental justice and socioeconomic impacts that we evaluate. We would impact the effects of seismic surveying on marine mammals or sea turtles. So that's how these 2 slides relate together. Today we'll give people an opportunity to provide comments orally if they would like to, but we have a couple other methods that comments can be provided if you don't want to get up and speak today. You can also submit written comments today at the registration table that you passed. And then we also have a variety of electronic or snail mail techniques that you can use to submit comments. Again, April 11th is the final due date. You can submit via this email site if you would like, cpa247@bohm.gov. You can also send it in to Gary Goki at the address listed on the screen. We also have another electronic means to submit comments. It's through regulations.gov, which is a web portal. You have to locate the appropriate item, which is this central planning area, lease sale 247, and submit comments. Some people are more comfortable with that than just submitting an email comment, because you can see on the regulations.gov site that a comment has been received, and then after a day or two they're actually posted on the regulations.gov site, so that might make you more comfortable with submitting your comments that way.